Hey guys, it's Rush. Hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the channel. This video today, we are talking about the Hori Octa controller. This is the Xbox version. So the reason I bought this controller is to test BananaFaction's PCB that contains micro switches. This fits into the old Hori Octa controller. I recently purchased this pad to test the PCB out. And interestingly enough, using this controller now, I'm quickly reminded of the things I don't like about this controller. So what really surprised me the most about this controller is the D-pad. I remember this D-pad feeling terrible when I first purchased it, but playing around with it, testing it, and comparing it to the Hori Octa Pro, I actually feel like this D-pad is a lot better out of the box. I was really impressed with it, more than I remember I was back when I tested it back in 2022 or 2023, whenever it was. So this is the BananaFaction PCB, and you can see it contains 4 micro switches. Now this is a similar shaped PCB to the one that's in the Hori Octa. It will not fit the Hori Octa Pro. Containing micro switches, they're quite clicky, and the idea is that it'll provide a better response when you use this with the D-pad. So in the footage now, you'll see me taking apart the controller and installing the mod into the Hori Octa. Never actually taken a Hori Octa apart, but I have an idea of what I'll see because of the amount of times I've taken apart the Hori Octa Pro. So after unscrewing the rear, that pulls off, and there you see the innards, the big PCB, the main circuit board for the controller. And yes, as I thought, it's very similar to the Hori Octa Pro. The shoulder buttons have their own PCBs and they slide into 2 small recesses. You've got to be very careful with those when you remove them, because those wires that connect the shoulder button PCB to the main PCB are very, very sensitive. They can snap. The welds can go on them quite easily. Now this bit I struggle with quite a lot, trying to unplug the original Hori Octa D-pad. So the D-pad has its own PCB from the main PCB. It was very, very stiff, much more stiff than the Hori Octa Pro. After a lot of struggle, I managed to take it apart without breaking anything, which is good. And once that was detached, I could then unscrew the circuit board, the main circuit board from the controller, because you have to lift the circuit board up to access the D-pad PCB, which you'll see shortly. So here you see me tackling the shoulder button PCBs. You'll see what I mean now. So you want to pull them out of the slots very carefully, but you don't want to bend the wiring. So be very, very careful when working on the Hori Octa and the Hori Octa Pro when doing this. Slide them out, be very, very gentle, and then you can just lift the entire circuit board up. And that's it, that lifts straight off, and there you see the stock PCB. It's very similar to the BananaFaction one. You may be wondering why the corner of the BananaFaction one has got like a little scratch on it, or part of it's cut off. The reason for that is because I did try to fit it into the Hori Octa Pro. It did fit just about, with me clipping a bit of the PCB, the circuit board off. However, when I connected it up, the wiring, it did register, but the up, down, left, right were not the same. So there we see the 2 PCBs side by side, one using a membrane, the other one micro switches on the BananaFaction version. And that's the PCB, the membrane PCB with the rubber removed. So let's slot that into place. There you go, you can see it securely in place now. I was a little cheeky here, I removed the analog stick as well. It's a habit when I'm using these Octa controllers, so I removed that whilst everything was taken apart. And then you just carefully put things back into place, being very cautious of those shoulder button PCBs again. Be very, very careful when putting them back into place. Don't be too rough with them, don't rag them around, and you should be fine. Once that's nice and flat, you can then screw it back in. Just make sure it sits flush. And then you want to connect the wiring from the PCB, the BananaFaction one, to the main circuit board. This wasn't too challenging. I did have to use quite a bit of force to connect it back up. Just straighten that wire up so it doesn't kink or get in the way when you put the backing plate on. Just test the shoulder buttons before I put everything together to make sure they're actually functioning, working correctly. So just testing the D-pad, it definitely felt different off the bat. So it had a clicky feel. It is using mouse micro switches, so a very clicky feel to it. What I did notice is because there's no rubber membrane, the D-pad would move quite a bit. It wasn't unstable, I'd say, but there was a little bit of a rattle to it in every direction, which is expected. You've got plastic sitting in a plastic recess. There's no rubber. Just make sure you don't catch the PCB wiring when you put the backing plate on. And then just screw it all back together. And that is it. That's the control pad back together with the new PCB. Testing it in game, it's very snappy, which is to be expected. Very quick inputs, very sharp inputs. I'd say it felt very sensitive, like extremely sensitive, which is to be expected. But you can see the inputs very clean. I did not reduce or increase the sensitivity via the Hori app at this point of the recording. And to me, it felt pretty good. So trying out a few combos, it feels nice, very smooth, very snappy, very quick, very loose. In all honesty, it felt a lot better than I expected, especially for someone that doesn't like micro switches. I've always said I prefer membrane style buttons, but considering the D-pad now uses micro switches, I do feel the response on it feels great. If you've ever used the Razer Rayon, I'd say it feels very similar to the Razer Rayon, but there you can see the wobble. It's only very slight, but it is noticeable. The main thing I noticed about the controller is it feels very quick, like inputs come out super fast. Now this is an improvement over both the Hori Octa and Hori Octa Pro. It's so snappy when you have a micro switch D-pad rather than membrane. The one thing I did notice is you can accidentally get inputs because it's so sensitive and so snappy. You can sometimes get accidental jumps. It's not common, but I did notice it through my first testing of the controller. If you do find that the D-pad is too sensitive with the BananaFaction PCB, then you can go into the Hori Device Manager app, connect to your controller and go to the D-pad settings. From the D-pad settings, you can control the sensitivity of your D-pad. So here you can see the D-pad is set to maximum sensitivity, but you can drag the directional inputs to reduce the sensitivity to your preference. So I did hop onto the BananaFaction website to find the item, but I noticed that there isn't actually an item listed here for it. So there are some reviews you can see here for the PCB, but I don't see it for sale, which is interesting. So I'll have to reach out to BananaFaction about this. But around the time we were discussing the PCB, I remember him having quite a few, or planned to make quite a few at the time. So it's still early days for me and this controller. I think it is an improvement. I do like the sensitivity, the snappiness of the D-pad, but it is a case of adjusting to this controller, getting used to it again, giving it a test to then give more feedback on how I feel about this. I feel for me, I would love to see this microswitch PCB in the Hori Octa Pro, because the Hori Octa Pro, compared to this controller, feels more natural. This feels really weird to me. I haven't held one of these for years, and I remember why I don't like the pad itself. But the D-pad, which is what's important in this video, does feel really good, and I recommend it. But let me do some testing, and I'll come back to you in a future video. Thanks for watching. Take care.